gang. It is Tuesday, and I don't know, maybe Monday got your week off to a rocking start, or possibly it turned out that Monday was a downer and your week's not going so well. I don't know. I'm hoping it's the former, not the latter. But what I can tell you for certain is the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, gang. Jeff McAleer once again, and as usual, I am the host here at the Daily Dope, as well as the Grand Poobah of the GamingGang.com. Today is Tuesday, February 13th. I've got a big show ahead of us, so welcome aboard. Feel free, settle in. And I should point out that there is chat available. It's just not on screen, but it is available through Twitch as well as YouTube. And I apologize right off the bat, my right contact is once again bothering me. And it seemed to bother me way more downstairs here in the duct tape studios because it's really dry. And also, it tends to be a lot of dust, and the cats hang out down here quite a lot. So a little bit of cat dander floating around. So anyway, I have a good amount of news today. I've got 5 news pieces, as well as a review of Darkest Night, 2nd edition, designed by Jeremy Leonard from the fine folks over at Victory Point Games. So I'm going to get to this in just a little bit. For those of you wondering what I've got cooking the rest of the week, tomorrow, of course, I am going to reveal the winner for Wing Leader Blitz 1939-1942 from Victory Point Games. It is an expansion to Wing Leader. I am running a contest right now for you folks out there to win, and you can actually find out how to enter by taking a peek at last Wednesday's show, where I did a how to play of Twilight Struggle, or you can check out my review the previous week on Wednesday for this War of Mine. Also, I'll be taking a look at Space Empire's Replicators from my pals over at GMT Games. This is the 2nd expansion for Space Empires, I should say. Oh, well, here comes Smokey jumping up. Hello, Smokes, climbing up. All right, Smokey's here. Hello, Smokey. Are you gonna lay down? All right, come on, lay down. Be a good girl. Be a good girl. Come on. Yes, special guest appearance by my kitty, Smokey. Say hello, Smokes. Hello, Smokes. All right, lay down. Be cool. Be cool. Don't be knocking stuff all over. I got things set up. And do not rip my Cubs jersey, please, with your claws. All right, what can you say? It's a live show, folks. Anyway, so I'm going to do an unboxing of that. On Thursday, I'm still up in the air. Thursday and Friday, actually, I'm a little up in the air of what I'll be doing. I do have an RPG that I might be able to review if I can finish it up. Yeah, things have been pretty busy. If I don't, then on Thursday I will actually do an unboxing of the Agents from Ninja Division. If I don't get around to finishing up the RPG, I'm hoping to do a review of. If I do the RPG review, then I will unbox that on Friday. And if I don't unbox it on Friday, well, then I'll just have to figure out something else for Friday. Probably do a quick review. It's usually family fun Fridays anyway. All right, Smokes, relax. I got a bunch of stuff set up on the table there. Don't mess with it. All right, so anyway, as I mentioned, I've got some news pieces. Got a few items from the mailbag that I'll jump into a little bit later on as well. But first off, let's move on to the news, because Z-Man Games has a very Uwe Rosenberg-ish looking game that's coming soon, and it is called Lowlands, and I've got the dope. Z-Man Games is happy to announce the upcoming release of Lowlands, a game of farm building with varying agendas on the coast of the North Sea. That just didn't seem to be structured correctly. Anyway, the lowland is a rough area where hard-working folk make a living by the sweat of their brow. Under constant threat of storm and flood, communities here rally together to build dikes that keep the rising water at bay. All right, Smokes, come on, relax, sweetie. But every citizen constructing a dike is one fewer citizen tending flocks and maintaining the family farm. The residents here are constantly torn between selflessness and self-interest, and only those who can strike this delicate balance can thrive in this harsh landscape. In Lowlands, you carve your farm out of this unforgiving land, gathering and spending resource cards to transform your farmland into pastures that allow you to profit from breeding sheep. Adding expansions to your farm will unlock new options and score you victory points. But helping to build the dike that collectively protects all players is also rewarded. No matter what, the tide will rise, and if the dike isn't high enough, it could rush in and sweep away your hard-earned profits. Will you sacrifice your own farm for the good of the community, or will you pursue your own agenda? The choice is yours. I do have to mention this was just announced, I believe it was yesterday, later in the day it came out. I don't have any release date information, I don't have any MSRP information, but if you take a peek at some of the images that are popping on past, it does sort of have a bit of an Agricola, as I mentioned, kind of a Uwe Rosenberg kind of design look to it, although it is not from that designer. It is from a first-time designer whose name I can't think of off the top of my head. Sorry, but I do know it's a first-time design. Next up, Atlas Games is actually taking a break from spreading all the joy and happiness of their Gloom series to have a new game up on Kickstarter, and I have to say this looks pretty unusual, so I wanted to share it. It is Cogs and Commissars. That's right, and I have the dope. Atlas Games is making a cleverly competitive card game about revolutionary robots. We need your help, comrades. Cogs and Commissars is a card game of glorious robot revolution, where players control the means of production. Atlas Games, the publisher of Gloom and Lunch Money, among other titles, envisions a world of totalitarianism, robots, and take that propaganda. We ask you to join us in bringing this project to life. For the motherboard! The rules are simple. You are an inspirational leader, such as artificial Stalintelligence, Simu-Lenin, or Gorobachev, with your own faction and your own deck of cards. On your turn, you grow your faction by producing more robot citizens and using propaganda to take citizens from other players to join your chrome-plated cause. You also play cards to send rival robots to the gulag, promote citizens within your faction, revitalize production, and more. Each turn, your actions make your faction grow. Once you have enough citizens aligned with your algorithm, you launch your glorious robot revolution. Other factions struggle valiantly to keep you from achieving this goal. Only the most stalwart robot faction can win above all others. The revolution will be mechanized. I do have a Kickstarter video that I'm going to share, so let's kick back and take a look at Cogs and Commissars.
Greetings, comrade. Can you spare a nanosecond for a fellow worker bot? Cogs and Commissars from Atlas Games celebrates the glorious robot revolution and founding of your cyber-communist utopia. You are the leader of an autonomous totalitarian faction. You seek a revolution over the oppressive capitalist power structure that infects the motherboard like a malicious worm. You will do so by dominating the hard circuits and core programming of your fellow mechanical citizens. Then, You will subvert the less evolved agendas of your opponents by any means. Cogs and Commissars is a smarter take that card game about growing or stealing a robotic following. During your turn, you might rouse the proletariat, reprogram the bourgeoisie, or recruit valuable commissars. Each faction leader, like Simulenin and Gorobachev, have unique abilities. Choose from two methods of game setup. Use pre-made faction decks if you are impatient to deliver your dogma to the citizens. Or drafting if you wish to fine-tune your faction according to your needs. Either way, players control the means of production. Your 7-card hand determines which actions are available to you. Make your enemies suffer by assassinating their leaders. Send them to work in the infinite labor loop of the Gulag. And mute those who would dare increment the resistance against you. Look for winning combinations. Each card is useful, but some are more potent at different times or when used in combination with others. When you finally network enough bots, you may attempt a revolution. The first player to succeed wins. Cogs and Commissars is electrifying entertainment for those who love approachable gameplay and enjoy thwarting the machinations of the opposition. Be a part of the inevitable robot revolution by joining our Kickstarter. After all, equality must be enforced.
Cogs and Commissars is for 2 to 6 players, ages 14 and up, plays around 20 to 40 minutes, and you can reserve a copy of the game as well as unlocked stretch goals at the $25 pledge level. The project is 100% funded already. It runs through March 1st and has an expected delivery of October of this year. I like the artwork. This seems pretty interesting too. I sort of like the whole Soviet aspect to the game. I don't understand why some of the robots have noses though. You notice that? Take a look at some of the images popping by. Some of the robots have noses. Kind of strange. Anyway, so I just wanted to share that Kickstarter with you for Cogs and Commissars. Next up, for those of you who complain that I do not share enough FFG news, Fantasy Flight Games has revealed the latest supplement to their uber popular, and I'm talking uber popular, Star Wars role-playing game line. Coming soon is Force and Destiny Knights of Fate. And if my nose would stop running, I could give you the dope. From the earliest days of its inception, the Jedi Order has defended even the farthest reaches of the galaxy from chaos and darkness. Often equipped with little more than their legendary lightsabers and a lifetime of training, Jedi Knights defended the weak and vulnerable by the strength of their arms when the avenues of wise guidance and diplomacy fell short. For thousands of years, these champions of light struggled tirelessly for justice and peace. Fantasy Flight Games is proud to announce Knights of Fate, a new sourcebook for Force and Destiny, focusing on the warrior career and providing new specialization trees, species, gear, and narrative components to bolster the masters of battle in your campaigns. In Force and Destiny, warriors must frequently confront the inherent moral conflict of violence. To them, peace is not merely the absence of strife, but the presence of justice and order. But the power that manifests itself so plainly in the warrior is also their greatest danger. Smokey, where are you trying to go? Lay down, babies. The warrior must be ever vigilant to protect their thoughts and intentions from the deception of the dark side. The fear and anger that can go hand in hand with battle may be a deadlier foe than any weapon forged by hand. Wielding both deadly weaponry and the Force is a responsibility that should not be taken lightly. The temptations of the dark side have swayed even the most stubborn minds, and the galaxy still suffers for it. Knights of Fate includes an arsenal of new equipment, droids, and vehicles perfectly suited for warriors, as well as new options for campaign rewards, such as titles and allies. 3 brand new species also enter the game, along with new specializations for warriors, including one focused on Mace Windu's contentious Vapad lightsaber fighting style. Star Wars Force and Destiny Knights of Fate is a 96-page hardcover source book. It will carry an MSRP of $29.95 when it arrives, which of course, as of this point, I don't know when it will be. There's no official release date, but you can pre-order the book right now. So if Fantasy Flight Games operates as they normally do, that should mean that this source book should be available soon. I always hear great things about the Star Wars role-playing line from Fantasy Flight Games. One of these days, I really should try to take a peek at least one of the core systems, because I know there's like 3 that you can kind of combine all of them together to have, just the overall Star Wars kind of experience. Yeah, we'll have to see. All right, next up, for miniatures fans out there, Mantic Games has their second edition of Dreadball on the horizon. Smokey, are you leaving or are you hanging out here? Hanging out? You gotta decide. You're awfully jumpy today. Anyway, I've got the dope. Dreadball 2nd Edition is the fast-paced, futuristic sports board game set in the galaxy's most high-tech arenas. Choose from the agile Ninth Moon Tree Sharks, or the unstoppable Draconis All-Stars from the core box set before taking to the pitch and going for glory. Expand your team collection with the mystical Matsudo Tectonics or the aggressive New Eden Revenants Cyborgs with 2-team expansions. Outwit your rival coach with tactical set pieces, push your luck with daring plays, or just smash your opponent to the ground with brutal tackles. When the game begins, anything goes. Play out of the box, there's no assembly, and it does include colored plastic teams. Now, keep in mind, they're colored plastic teams. They are not pre-painted plastic teams. It also includes plastic counters, dice, cards, the rule book, and an incredible fold-out board. That's according to Mantic Games. It contains all the core rules and 2 pre-built teams. The robots and the Yindage are ready to go for a quick start play. And this will also include 2 free team captains. Dreadball 2nd Edition arrives March 19th, and if you order the starter box from Mantic themselves before then, you'll score a free figure. The MSRP on the new core set is $84.99. The Dreadball 2nd Edition rulebook, for those who are already playing Dreadball, is also going to be offered separately in a collector's format for $39.99. This 210-page book will include the updated rules for league play and multiplayer games, and stats for all 29 teams, 67 MVPs, and all team captains. The book will be a limited edition item with only 1 print run. You can also score a massive launch bundle for approximately $220. Mantic, I have to point out now, of course, I have absolutely no familiarity, I should say, with Dreadball. But I do know Mantic is pretty fairly priced as far as their miniatures, as far as miniature companies go. A little more than Reaper. They're a little more costly than Reaper. But then again, Mantic is a UK company, and Reaper's here in the US, in Texas. All right, finally, I know some folks out there think, Jeff, you never talk about video games. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about video games, or a video game, because there's an interesting looking free-to-play MMO zombie apocalypse game. Excuse me. Gee, smokes. Got enough hair floating around in my face, huh? Anyway, there is an interesting looking free-to-play MMO zombie apocalypse game which just arrived on Steam today, and it is from French developer Atelier 801. I think that might be how you pronounce it. And it is called Dead Maze. and I have the dope. See ya, Smokes. The end of the world begins today with the global launch of the free-to-play zombie MMO Dead Maze on Steam. Following a successful closed beta period, independent French developer Atelier 801, I think so, opens the doors to Dead Maze today and invites players to join forces to reclaim a world overrun by the undead. In Dead Maze, cooperation takes center stage. Join thousands of players working together to explore a devastated western United States. Fight against the constant threat of the undead. Scavenge for what you can to survive. Craft crucial supplies and weapons, and ultimately rebuild society with friends. Oh man, now my nose is really starting to run. Thanks, Smokes. We want to build fun multiplayer games that players around the world can enjoy together, said Melanie Kristen, a co-founder of Atelier 801. With Dead Maze, that meant looking at how we can approach a zombie-themed MMO game that feels fresh and new for the genre, where cooperation is key. I believe we achieved that with Dead Maze thanks to its unique art style, deep crafting system, and our growing community of players. With the launch of Dead Maze, players can discover the destroyed world of the zombie MMO, build their own home and craft their own supplies, team up with their friends and battle the dozens of different types of infected, using over 500 different items and weapons. I've got a short trailer, it's a little over a minute for the game, so why not, let's take a peek. Ooh, scary kids, scary. As I mentioned previously, Dead Maze is free to play. I'm not saying it's free to win though, and I'm not saying it's not pay to win. I don't know. But it is available on Steam right now. Which actually segues into an item from the mailbag, interestingly enough, because Carl in Dover, Maryland had asked why I don't cover more video games either here on the Daily Dope or even to some extent on thegaminggang.com. And I have to be honest, I mean, I'm a big video game fan, okay? I have probably played video games longer than I have played tabletop games, and that's saying a lot because I've been playing tabletop games for I don't know, about 38 years. So, as I say, that's saying a lot. So, here's why I don't really cover as many video games as probably would be beneficial to the site. Not maybe necessarily the show, because the show really is focused more on tabletop gaming, as well as, yeah, when I run across some geek culture stuff that's interesting, I like to share it. And the reason is, if I start playing video games, then I am never going to have any time whatsoever to put together a show or do reviews of tabletop games, just simply because I can get into a game and it's like, wow, I know it's 4 o'clock in the morning, but just one more hour of this. Now, that being said, I am always on the lookout for contributors to the gaming gang. And as an example, I get Steam codes and things like that from companies asking, hey, we'd like you to take a look at our game. I don't usually take advantage of it. Usually I'll do like out of the park baseball every year because I'm obviously huge baseball fan, and that it's an awesome game pretty much every year. But a lot of other video games I just don't dive into because I know I'm going to be sitting there for 8-10 hours playing some really cool game when I should be working on the website or getting ready for the show or what have you. That being said, like I said, I'm always on the lookout for contributors. I need contributors for video games. And now keep in mind, at this point, it's not like A-list games come my way. But once you establish yourself as having, legitimate, honest reviews, bigger companies want their stuff covered. I also need comic book contributors. If you're a fan of comic books and you don't mind digital comics 2 weeks before they're published, usually a week or two, be sure to reach out. The email right below, mailbag at thegaminggang.com. That's for any questions, comments, suggestions, anything like that. Also, if you want to become a contributor, we're always on the lookout. And one thing that I'm able to do, especially for folks like if you're in like California, you're in New York, I get invited to all these like movie premieres. Once again, we're not talking, hey, Jeff, come on down and sit with the press for the screening of Black Panther. But a lot of horror stuff, a lot of kind of indie movies, always getting invites to, the red carpet and, press parties afterwards. So if there's somebody out there who isn't too schlubby, who could represent us at, movie premieres and that, I'd love to get him on board as well. Anyway, long story short, I'm always on the lookout for contributors. And a lot of times we can get you into your local conventions as well as the media, as long as you happen to be working with thegaminggang.com. Alrighty then. So, about 30 minutes of news. That's not too shabby. A couple other items in the mailbag. I'm still going to kind of put those off a little bit because, as I mentioned yesterday, and damn, this contact just comes and goes as far as being okay. It's like 1 minute it's fine, the next minute it's like, ah! And I'm sure having Smokey on my lap didn't help. And the funny thing is, I am not allergic to Smokey. I think it's just the contact. And of course, I don't have any replacements at the moment, so I had to order some. But I hate wearing glasses because it reflects all the light and that. It's very distracting for the viewers. At least it's distracting for me when I'm checking to see if the video's okay and everything's in sync. Hopefully the audio today is in sync because I did another quick test. I always do a quick test a few minutes before I go live. It's just a private stream. And strangely enough, today on YouTube, a couple of people saw it and thought, oh, hey, it's my my review for Darkest Night. And it was just a little test. So sorry about that, folks. So everything looked okay. All right. So anyway, so let's pop on over. I'm going to be reviewing Darkest Night, 2nd edition from Victory Point Games, designed by Jeremy Leonard. It is available now, following a very successful Kickstarter. It's available from Victory Point Games. It is for 1 to 4 players, and I will talk about a few little tweaks that you can make to kind of jump the player count up a little bit. And it carries an MSRP of $134.95. So round it up, $135. All right, so let's move over to the other camera here. And the way I've got it set up now, the board itself, actually, this is a dual-sided board. So the board on the other side, this actually unfolds. This opens up to a much bigger board. But there really isn't much difference. In fact, there's really no difference that I can tell just by peeking at it. And I did not necessarily find anything in the rules stating that, okay, if you're playing the game one way, use this board. If you're playing the game another way, unfold it and use the bigger board. So I'm going with the smaller board so I can fit more items in to the shot here. So the premise of Darkest Night is that there is a necromancer, an evil necromancer. This is a fantasy setting, and the necromancer has won. He's defeated the assembled armies, and the bad guys have won, which is quite unlike a lot of fantasy games out there where the situation is, oh, well, like Lord of the Rings, for an example. We're trying to stop these dark forces. No, the dark forces have won. And the players, or player, because this game is very, very easily played solitaire. In fact, the first edition of it, many, many people picked this up to play it solitaire. Oh, now I lost my train of thought. Anyway, so the players will represent various characters. And I am not kidding when I say that this takes up quite a lot of space, because there's tons of stuff, that I do not even have out here. So first off, we're going to take a look at what the game sort of includes that's not out here. So you'll see that we've got all these various character cards in here. These are character decks. There are 29 different characters, and you will be playing with 4 normally. So you normally will have 4 heroes, but there are 29 heroes included, and each of them has a standee. All 29 of them. So, and I have to point out that this storage box that Victory Point Games put together, I really like it, because I've been finding that there are a lot of companies now. Now, keep in mind, there are tons of cards in this game, right? A lot of companies are putting together these storage trays, and when you try to reach in, you can't pull all of the cards out. Wild Blue Yonder from GMT was a great example. Love the game. Hate the little storage insert. It's terrible. You have to constantly just flip the whole box over to get all the cards out from the bottom. So, of course, I got rid of that plastic insert and bagged the cards after I had sleeved them. Anywho. So, and then with this edition here, this is the retail edition, there is a miniature of the Necromancer as well. So that's just some of the stuff that I'm not even displaying here. Whoops, as I smash into the microphone. Real good, Jeff. See, over the weekend, I kind of sorted some stuff around so that I wasn't like right up in people's faces. So I kind of spread some stuff out a little bit and ended up having to move the mic a little bit. So I'm not super keen on the location here, especially when I'm turned over towards this table showing the game off. All right. So as I mentioned, you are going to assemble a team of 4 heroes. Now, regardless of how many players, so if you're playing solitaire, you're going to control all 4 heroes. If you got 4 players, then each of the players is going to control a hero. If you got 2, split it up 2 and 2, however you want. If you got 3 players, I don't know. Maybe the more experienced player of the game gets to control 2. Fight it out amongst yourselves. So you'll have these various different, they're kind of like character archetypes, I should say. So these are a few that I have not selected randomly for this. I'm not going to show off every single aspect of the game for the review. Although I will point out that if there's enough interest, and you can always leave a comment in the comment section, I'd be happy to do kind of a playthrough maybe next week, because I'm thinking on Tuesdays I might focus a little more on playthroughs as opposed to reviews and unboxings all the time. Because there's a lot of games that I have that I could be showing off that maybe they're not brand spanking new, that deserve some love. Kind of like Twilight Struggle. Last Wednesday I did the How to Play Twilight Struggle. Anyway, like I said, you can always leave a comment in the comment section. So for an example, we've got the Alchemist, we've got the Bard, we've got the Chandler, and I did an unboxing of this last week, so I'm not going to go through all of these. We've got the Monk, we've got the Seer. So as I mentioned, there are 29 different characters for you to choose from. Now it's up to you. It's completely up to you. You can decide that, all right, well, we're playing a 4-player game and everybody's going to have an opportunity. They're going to pick what character they want. That's cool. I will point out that in some situations, some combinations of heroes don't work as well as other combinations of heroes. So sometimes it's good to pick what each hero is going to be, what their archetype will be. And then, of course, if you want to have a little more difficult game, then you can randomly pick 4 heroes or take the hero archetype that you like the best, that you kind of dig the most, and then randomly select the rest. So I've got, these are the characters that I do not have in this adventure here. What I do have is I have the Crusader, and I'll move these off here, and I'll kind of explain this card here. So this is the Crusader's hero card. So you're going to have some flavor text. It's going to talk about the Crusader. And then you've got 2 tracks down here. And the bottom track is Secrecy. And that's effectively showing how easily can the Necromancer detect the Crusader who's out there. Because, as I mentioned, the Necromancer, and here's his standee right here. Ooh, scary kid, scary. He's won, but he does know that there are still these little pockets of resistance out there, and that really he's afraid that they're going to be able to find these holy relics, which could bring him down. So he's hunting for the characters. Almost look at it like, as an example, Sauron looking for the ring, trying to find where is the ring bearer. Kind of along the same lines a little bit. So we have the Secrecy track, and then up top here, we have, off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember what it is called. I don't want to have to go searching through the rule book. It's kind of along the lines of kind of like the hero's life force. It's not necessarily just hit points. It's more kind of just an all-encompassing kind of characteristic that they will lose and gain. But if you hit 0, you're not dead. So that's why I'm saying it's not really hit points, because you don't die if you hit 0. You don't die if you hit 0 secrecy, obviously enough. But there are wounds in the game. Characters can be wounded, which that's a very, very bad thing. So as we take a look here, you'll see on these 2 tracks, these little indicators. So on the top track, you're going to see a 5, and then there's a 4. So that just shows, okay, so on both of these tracks, this is where you'll start off with. And you've got these tokens here that you will actually mark those off. So we're going to put 4 secrecy and 5 up here. Each of the characters also gets a kind of daytime, nighttime token. And really all it means is you have the daytime up. That means that this character has not performed their action for that turn. Once they've done it, you just flip it over. Just a reminder, just kind of a quick reminder. On the back of each of the character cards, which I thought this is a nice touch, this is going to tell you all about the hero's turn as well as the actions that are available. So what you do is you simply take one of the characters that you're not utilizing, one of the heroes, flip it upside down, and you place it right there, right next to, or you put it below it, alongside. Now, as I mentioned before, this game, especially when you start unfolding the bigger map, this game takes up space on the table. It's not massive, but it does take up space. So you want to kind of keep your hero stuff together so you don't accidentally forget something or misplace something. So we've got the Crusader. Oops. We've got the Windwalker. We have the Valkyrie. And we have the Exorcist. Oh no, actually it should be the Enchanter or Enchantress. Let's see where that's at. I know, I'm not going to show you every character's... Oh, there we go, the Enchanter. Ta-da! So just to kind of give you an idea. And just looking at the card, you're thinking, oh, well, okay, so there's some flavor text. There's these two trackers down below. These, okay, well, I mean, but really there's no real huge difference between these outside of the name and the artwork. Well, no, that's not the case, because each of the hero types is going to have a 13-card deck of special abilities. And when you begin the game, you're going to look for the abilities that have an icon up top. So you'll notice here in these circles, there's no marking. Here there are. So you've got 5 different abilities. So as an example here, for the Crusader, we have Wrath. And as a tactic, they can spend one of those, gosh, Jeff, I can't remember the silly name. I'm looking in the rules real quick, because I always want to call it Spark, but it's not. Whoops, it's not Spark, because Spark is something that you can earn to kind of do re-rolls. It's kind of a luck token. All right, where was it? Where was it? Grace. There we go. Grace. All right. Oh, and if you haven't seen the rules aren't real long. All told, we're looking at 25 pages, but there's an extended example of play. There's some optional rules as well. Tons of illustrations throughout. So there isn't a whole lot that the players have to really wrap their heads around. All right, let's get that out of the way. Grace, that's it. I kept wanting to say Spark, and I know that's wrong. So taking a look at the abilities, so we've got Wrath, which is a tactic. They can spend 1 Grace to fight with 4 dice. Providence, they can spend 1 Grace during a search. They roll 1 die and gain a treasure chest if they roll greater than or equal to that location's search difficulty. Devotion, they can gain 2 Grace, and then they get a bonus. They can spend 1 Grace at any time to gain a Spark, max of 3. There's Defiance. Whenever you fail combat, you may spend 1 Secrecy to gain 1 Grace up to the default. And then there's Anointed. Bonus, +1 to default Grace, +1 die when praying. And all of these characters all have all these different abilities. So out of these 5, you get to choose 3. So those would be the 3 starting abilities that each of the heroes are going to have, and each of them have a deck. So we've got the Wind Dancer. We've got the Enchanter. All these. And then we also have the Valkyrie. These are the 4 characters that I was showing you. And a lot of times it's a nice mix to have, some combat heavy characters, some magic heavy characters. There's the rogue. So if you're picking your team, you usually want to have a nice balance, but not always. And I'll get to that in just a moment. I'm going to move these cards down a little bit, try to get those more in the shot. Okay, so anyway, so you would choose your 3. So just for an example, we'll just say Wrath, Defiance, and Anointed. So the Anointed is going to automatically boost the default up to 6 on the Grace. And then you would place these cards somewhere near your character. So you know that these are the abilities that that character has. And you're going to take the rest of their abilities, you're going to shuffle them up. And then those are also going to go over near your character because you can gain additional abilities as you're playing. And then I've got the standees here for each of the heroes. Just like so. The artwork's really cool. Really, really dig the artwork all throughout the game. I'm just putting these off to the side. And we've got the Necromancer. So the Necromancer is going to start in the ruins. The characters will start in the monastery. I'm going to lift this board up a little bit. This was another reason why I wanted to utilize the smaller board to give you a better look at it. So you've got these different areas. So you've got the mountains, you've got the castle, you've got the swamp, you've got the ruins, you've got the village, you've got the forest, and you have the monastery. And because the Necromancer has won, the Necromancer, I should say, people have busted my chops for saying Necromancer. So because the Necromancer has won, these blights will begin the game on the board. So blights can be groups of monsters, they could be magical enchantments, which of course are negative for the heroes, or they can also be really kind of difficult, more magical in nature. They tend to be red. They are red blights, red bordered blights that will have usually some sort of overall effect, normally just in the area that it's placed in, although there are times that it may actually take effect across the entire land. And you have to keep in mind, these areas are supposed to be, big areas. It's not like, oh, okay, well, it's just the castle. No, it's all the stuff around the castle. It's all the mountains. It's the big forest. It's the ruins. It's swamp. Now, if we take a look here, you'll see that there's a track that's going to run down the side of the board. And here you're going to track darkness. So that's this little skull token. You can also track clues. Because the premise of the game is that the heroes are doing their best to find these ancient relics, these holy relics. So, for an example, right here, this token here represents one of the holy relics. The only way you're going to be able to defeat the Necromancer is by utilizing these holy relics. There are 4. Each character can only carry 1 holy relic, so it is entirely possible, but not necessarily very likely, that each of your heroes will eventually carry one of these holy relics. But you can't just go to the location and get the holy relic. Then, as we take a peek, we see these tokens, and these are the blights, various blights. So we see that in the village, there are zombies. So monsters are usually indicated by a yellow border. We've got skeletons in the swamp. We've got skeletons in the ruins. We've got an enigma in the forest. And I'm missing the castle. What was the castle on the card? It is a Nexus. And you're going to have all of these different blights. And you usually want to have the blights sorted out by color and maybe break them up in some stacks, because you're going to actually have to place these various different blights on the board as they appear. Gate, there we go, Nexus, there we go. And taking a look at one of the blights, and let's, for an example, let's just grab one of the monster ones. Okay, so we see zombies. So this is how you're going to place that blight out. So you're going to see it like this, and it's going to show, okay, so it's got a 5. So that means, okay, so it's on on a 6-sided die, you need 5 or better to defeat this blight. When you actually go and visit that location and try to fight the blight, you're going to flip this over, and it's going to show you different items on this. What happens if you fail? What happens if you're able to defeat them? What happens if you best it? So one thing about this game here is that I'm looking to put it back on the board, and I actually took it out of the stack. So one thing that some players might have a little bit of a difficult time conceiving in the game is you don't necessarily, when you're going and you're fighting the blights, you're not necessarily just going, oh, okay, well, there's a dragon there, I got to go fight the dragon, or there's an ogre there, I have to fight the ogre. No, these are kind of like encompassing that whole area. So you're not just strolling along and going, okay, well, I'm just fighting a skeleton. No, it's a bunch of skeletons across this area. Now, you also will see, if we go close enough, you're going to see little dice and arrows, because the necromancer is roaming the land in search of these heroes. So the necromancer will actually move each turn. Now, it is possible that he'll detect one or more of the heroes and he's going to go towards them because he wants to fight the heroes. He wants to kill the heroes. As far as the tracker here, the darkness, every time, so if you hit a 10, you've got a darkness deck. And this darkness deck will actually make the necromancer more powerful. He's consolidating his power. He's getting a much tighter grip on the land, and that's what these darkness cards will represent. And as you can see, there's tons of these darkness cards. Now it's possible there are events as well that could cause a darkness card, but for the most part, you're going to draw the darkness cards once. You're going to hit 10 darkness, 20 darkness, and then it'll show right here, 10, draw a darkness card, 20, draw a darkness card, 25, all blights have +1 might, and at 30, create blight at the monastery instead of where it will be indicated where the necromancer is. There is a timing mechanism. You can't just mess around forever taking care of blights, doing events, checking out mysteries, going on quests, because time is running out. You only have so much time to be able to defeat the necromancer. And as you see that we have these blights in these various areas, the necromancer will create a blight everywhere he's at each turn. So these blights really start to pile up. So you can't let that go. And if there are ever 4 or more blights in the monastery, because once his darkness is spread, the monastery is kind of like your safe haven. The necromancer cannot enter the monastery. He cannot. So even for an example, let's say he's moving from the mountains and he's detected the Valkyrie down here, and let's say she happens to be the closest character to him. He can't go through the monastery to go go to the forest. He has to go through the village to the forest because he cannot enter the monastery. Alrighty then. Okay, so that is pretty much the board. You're going to actually set up, you've got these map cards. And this is another aspect that I really like about the game because according to some folks, Darkest Night is too easy. According to other folks, Darkest Night is too difficult. Well, how can it be both, right? So, gotta be honest, playing solitaire, some folks are usually kind of tempted to maybe, oh yeah, I'll re-roll that die. Yeah, I'm gonna re-roll that die. Yeah. But anyway, I find Darkest Night to be a good challenge. Should point out, you also got all these 6-sided dice here. And they are cut. So it's not just painted on. I will admit that sometimes rolling these dice, it was a little difficult to kind of make out because the numbers sort of gets lost in the design a little bit. Plus, I tend to be kind of a pip guy when it comes to 6-sided dice. But anyway, you're going to have your 6-sided dice, and there's quite a few of them that are included in the game as well. All right, let's pop those over here. Okay, so when you begin the game, and I had this card flipped up. When you begin the game, you can create different sorts of vibes with the game itself because the map deck, there's all these map cards. So if you want like the full experience, that it could be just all this different, just insane stuff popping out as far as these blights go, you're going to use the entire map deck. If you want, especially the first time you play, I certainly recommend that you go with, and you can see there's this dial down at the bottom of the card, and it's going to indicate, and there in the rule book, it actually talks about how to kind of construct your deck. So this is an easier, this is kind of a simpler sort of map deck because you can kind of adjust the difficulty with the map deck itself. So this little green dot is indicating that this is more the kind of simpler learn how to play the game deck. And when you look at these map cards, you're going to see that it's going to be broken down. You've got mountains, castle, village, swamp, forest, ruins, and the monastery. So when you first set up the board, you're going to take a look at this first column that runs down on the right side, and that's going to indicate those are the blights. So these are the blights that, this was the card I drew, so these are the blights that I put in each of the locations. When you're searching, when you successfully search a location, because that is one of the actions that's available to the players, you can find various different things. You can find artifacts, you can find mysteries that you can solve to get more clues. Because remember, I told you, the main thing is you're trying to get these holy relics here to defeat the necromancer, but you have to earn clues to be able to go to these locations and get these holy relics. So you're going to utilize these map cards to start off the game as well as when you're searching. And I want to say there's about 16 of them. Maybe there's 20 cards in the easier one. So you would flip this card over, you're going to set up this blights, and you're going to put it in the discard pile. When the necromancer is moving around the board, and remember I told you, he creates these blights wherever he goes. You'll actually draw the map card, and you're going to look to see, okay, what's the location he's in, and what is the blight? And it changes up. So pretty cool. A lot of tons of replayability with this game. All right, so pretty much most of the information that you're going to need to know is on this back of one of the hero cards. So it's going to tell you, okay, on the hero's turn, what goes on in the hero's turn, and then on this two-sided card here. So we've got all the info about the blights. We've got info about different items, because you can find magical items that are going to make your heroes tougher. Other search results. And then we see right here, it says, okay, so what does the Necromancer get to do on the Necromancer's turn? Tells you right there. Tells you what the Necromancer does. So each turn, what you're going to do is you're going to start off, you're going to get, and okay, this is going to be something that kind of throws some people off too, because I want to point out, in a lot of victory point games, there's always so much going on, and you just don't have enough actions to deal with everything that you would like to be able to deal with. It's just kind of a philosophy to some of their designs. Right off the top of my head, I can tell you Nemo's War, although I haven't played the second edition, I'm sure it hasn't changed that much from the first edition. Always a bunch of stuff going on, limited actions. You got to kind of juggle, kind of weigh your options there. Same with Dawn of the Zeds. Dawn of the Zeds 3rd edition, same thing. There's a lot of things going on. You never have enough actions to take care of everything that you need to do. Some people don't like that. It doesn't bother me. I sort of like having to sit there and go, oh man, yeah, I guess I'll do this. I guess that's the most important thing I need to take care of. So on each turn, or I guess maybe we'll say each round is made up of a hero turn as well as the Necromancer's turn, and you will just continue to repeat the process. So you'll start the turn, and of course, if you end up in an area with the Necromancer at the beginning of your turn, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's found you and that he gets to attack you. Because remember, as I mentioned before, these are large areas, right? These are big areas. This isn't just, oh, well, yeah, okay. So the swamp is like 100 feet long, 100 yards long. No, these are big areas. So it is possible that you'll end up in the same area as the Necromancer, and he may not be able to find you. Just point that out, because I know some folks kind of like, well, wait a second. If the Necromancer's, he knows you're near, and he's chasing you, then how come he doesn't get to automatically attack you? And that's because, once again, kind of think about Lord of the Rings, right? Sauron has an idea kind of where the ring bearer might be, but he doesn't know for certain. That's why he's got all his minions and that out there scouring the land to try to find him. All right, so I just happen to stand these up, lay those back down so you kind of get a better look again. All right, so on each turn, what your character is basically going to do is they're going to have an option of moving, so they can travel, and as the game continues, you're going to be losing these secrecy points off of your sheet. Now, when you travel, you actually get to get one secrecy back because you're moving around. You're able to kind of shake off your pursuers, I guess we would say. You can also perform an action. So traveling is one, hiding is another. And hiding, you get to refresh your powers, because when you use a power, you're actually going to flip it back over, because you can't just use these anytime you want. You need to refresh your abilities. And then you can also attack. So if you're already in a location, you can attack that blight. You can search a location. You can meditate. Meditate will give you a spark. You have a limit of 3 sparks that you can have, and the sparks allow you re-rolling bad die rolls. You can also use a spark to add a die to the number of dice that you're rolling as well. They're kind of one use, one and done sort of thing. If you have a card that gives you an ability to do something, you can play that. You can retrieve the Holy Relic if you've got the clues. Now, another thing to point out too is you earn a number of clues that can allow you to retrieve a Holy Relic. It's basically, you don't have to sit there and go, well, I need to get one more clue here at the swamp to get the Holy Relic. No, it's a little more abstract than that. As long as you got the clues, you can go and retrieve a Holy Relic from whichever the locations still have a Holy Relic available to them. Then in the monastery, if you're in the monastery, it's the only location you can do this, you can also pray. So you can also pray, and that will allow you to roll a couple of dice, and you can regain some of your grace. So the monastery, as I mentioned before, this is kind of like your safe haven. So a lot of times when your characters are battered, they're going to try to return to the monastery in order to pray. You are going to draw an event card anytime you are not in the monastery. Because the players are all starting off in the monastery, they would not be drawing an event card. So as an example, like I said, I'm not going to play through the whole thing here, but let's say, okay, so the Crusader says, I'm going to go to the village. Now, if you ever go to a location that has a yellow border blight, you actually have to fight one of these creatures. So when you arrive, you have to fight a zombie. Now, fighting the zombie and winning does not defeat the blight. You're just able to, it's kind of like stragglers or whatever, right? Figure, it's some stragglers, some straggler skeletons, some straggler zombies. So the blight is actually still there once you would do battle. And of course, you're going to be rolling your dice. Let's say the Valkyrie goes up into the mountains. There's an omen here. Ooh. And then it says highest fate events. So when you'd reveal this, you would actually be drawing an event card. Let's show off the event cards. So here it says, okay, so this event is a dead servant. And it's going to say compare your secrecy. So that's the secrecy icon there. It says, okay, 5+ scout. It's going to tell you, okay, you got to roll a die. What about an archer? So you're looking at rolling the dice, or I'm sorry, comparing the secrecy to this card. And the Valkyrie's secrecy would be starting off, she's got a 5. So looking at 5, you're looking at, these are the results after you roll. Now there's going to be all different events. Usually the events are bad. They are not good. Sometimes you'll have an event that's kind of, it's okay. It actually helps you. You can have events that will give you a quest. There's a whole deck of quest cards. And the quest card's going to tell you, okay, how long do you have to complete this quest? So you'll see here it's got 6 on the, it's kind of like a little hourglass up there. That's going to tell you, what is this quest? What do you have to do? So if you complete that quest, what do you get out of it? If you don't complete that quest, what happens? So if that 6 turns go by and that quest hasn't been completed, then you're going to see that there's going to be a blight. And it will go into one of these locations here. Because as I mentioned before, you're going to have these blights starting to stack up. So, all right, so we would have the Valkyrie moves. Let's say they're going to village 2, and we're going down to the forest. And then they're going to flip over the blight here in the forest. It says, while that blight is in effect, it's +1 difficulty to your search. This is a pretty easy blight to get rid of. It's a 4. You don't always have to fight the blight when you go into an area, because sometimes you're going to have like 4 blights in an area, and that is going to be pretty tough. So you really don't want to let these blights get to that point where they're all stacking up, because a lot of times, especially when they'll have different modifiers, those modifiers all stack up as well. You got artifacts. So when you're doing a search, so you're going to see, lift this up again. You're going to see that where it says village, it says search difficulty. The search difficulty is a 3. Castles a 2. Mountains are a 4. Swamp is a 4. And searching is one of your actions. So you can search. Let's say if you were successful on the search, you get to draw. Let's say it was a successful castle search, right? You're going to look at this column over here. It'll tell you, okay, what did I find? All right, well, if you're not sure what you found, guess what? You're going to go look at this card right here, and it's going to show you the different icons. So, for an example, in the castle, it says it's a supply cache that you found. Because remember, you're searching around, you're trying to find different stuff to help make life easier for you, fighting these blights, but you're also trying to hopefully get some of these mystery cards, which you don't necessarily have to use the mystery cards in order to get more clues. And if you end up drawing a mystery card, it's going to tell you, take a look, you'll see there's a number, so you're going to automatically get that number of clues. So you see where it's got the 1. So it's going to tell you, okay, well, that's the number of clues you got. Then it's going to have a little bit of, an event text, kind of flavored text. And then it's going to tell you, for an example, it says, if a blight here is destroyed, plus 2 clues, and re-randomize this card's location. Discard this card if a blight is created in the monastery. There are rules in the game if you want to try to make the game a little bit easier, like mysteries and quests. Quests maybe not so much, because the quests are actually really cool and they create a real narrative in the game. But there are rules that not using the mystery cards, but actually getting these keys. Well, you're actually gaining keys and then spending the keys to unlock the ability to get one of the holy relics. Okay, so what you're going to end up doing is your character is going to be continually going around the board, hopefully avoiding the necromancer, because when the necromancer moves, first thing what you do with the necromancer is you increase the darkness 1. So every turn, this darkness is going to keep going up. And then there are some events, some blights, things like that are going to increase the darkness faster. So you're going to do that. You will also, if you have any active quests, there are counters that have the little hourglass on it. You're going to put that on top of it so you can track how many turns have passed since that quest came out. Then the necromancer is going to roll. He's going to roll a die. So for an example, that was a 5. If any of the characters, any of your heroes, have a secrecy that is lower than what he rolled, then he's going to be able to detect the hero. So let's say, for an example, the Valkyrie had a secrecy of, let's say, 3. He's going to automatically move towards her. That's going to be his movement. He's moving towards the Valkyrie. Now, granted, we've got the Windwalker in the village. He didn't know about her, but now he just happens to pop into her location. Now, when it's her turn again, she's going to lose secrecy because he's right in that area. If you roll the necromancer and it is, like, let's say a 1, and everybody's got a secrecy of 1 or higher, you're just going to actually randomly move him. So for an example, if you're from the ruins, you're looking at a 1, he would move here. On a 2, he would move here. On a 3 or 5, or I'm sorry, yep, 3 or 5, he's going there. On a 4 or 6, he's just hanging out in the ruins. And the Necromancer will move around the board. Once you have acquired a holy relic, you can send a hero to battle the Necromancer. And it is tough. You need to get a 7 on a 6-sided die, right? And then, a lot of times when you're rolling, you'll have multiple dice. And if it tells you that, okay, well, the difficulty of this is a 4, all you need is 1 success. You don't have to get a 4 on all 3 dice or all, both dice, what have you. If you have multiple dice, all you need is 1 success to be successful. So anyway, so you'll eventually battle the Necromancer, and you need the Holy Relics because the Holy Relic is going to give you a +1 to your character. And you're going to have to do everything you possibly can. You're going to hope that that character's got equipment that's giving them bonuses and stuff like that, because you can only kill the Necromancer on a 7 on a 6-sided die. So not easy. The characters also have wounds, and the wounds, you don't have hit points or anything like that. If you get a wound, your character will die unless you spend one of your grace to avoid that wound. Now, in combat, you can evade. There are ways that you can evade the combat as well. I'm usually the kind of guy who's like, yeah, okay, I'm digging in, I'm fighting this out. But you can evade. You can evade, especially the Necromancer. When the Necromancer finds you, you can try to evade the Necromancer. Necromancer, I keep saying Necromancer, it's Necromancer. I've heard it pronounced both ways. If you're able to defeat the Necromancer, then you have won. If it gets to the point where 4 blights are in the monastery, you have lost. You can lose a hero. Heroes can die. And it's possible to still win. I thought I remembered there used to be, if one of the heroes got killed, you lost. But I don't believe I ran across that in the rules playing this time. I didn't see it. I may have missed it. But I did not recall running across that in the rules themselves. So that may no longer be in this edition. Because you can have fewer than 4 heroes just playing in a regular game. So that should not automatically lose you the game. Talking about some of the options that are available too. So if you want to make the game more difficult, you just set up, as I remember pointing out, you can set up the map deck so that you'll have different map cards, because more difficult blights are on these other cards. You can also create it where, okay, so it's more of a kind of a magical enchantment type blights. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. You can custom tailor the challenges that you're going to face. You're not going to mess around with the artifact deck. You're not going to mess around with the event deck. Kind of give you an idea of the artifact deck. So for an example, we're looking at the Blindfold of Bliss, Mirror of Moonlight, Starry Veil. And of course, these are all items that your character is going to get. Now, sometimes they're going to be kind of one and done, like potions, stuff like that. And you will have there are more counters for those as well in the game. As I mentioned, there's still more stuff that I'm not showing off here. But all in all, that's kind of the way that Darkest Night will play. You can make it a little easier. You can add a 5th player. You can have a 5th hero if you'd like. There are some options involving that. which I think is pretty cool. Even though it says it's for 1 to 4 players, there is an option for a 5th hero, and really a 5th hero means that you could bring in a 5th player. There are options to make the game harder if you find that, wow, every time we play Darkest Night, we win, we don't lose. Which, I'm sorry, that's never been my my experience when I've played Darkest Night either edition. I find it's a pretty good challenge, but I do like the fact that there's all different tweaks that you can utilize as well. I also dig the compendium that is included, because it's going to go into detail about each of the archetypes. It's going to give you a bit of background about each of them, talk about their special abilities. I thought this was a really nice addition. There's also more detailed info about the artifacts, the blights, the darkness cards as well. Talking about the mysteries in detail. So I thought this was a really cool extra addition to the game, just to give you a better feel of, okay, well, if we're picking characters, hey, I heard the druid is super cool because they get like an animal companion that helps them out. Wow, that's neat. I like that idea. And it'll kind of tell you what, like for an example, the scholar. Do you think the scholar is going to be somebody who's focused on combat? No, absolutely not. So really, really like this. I really thought that was pretty cool that was added into the game as well. Gosh, this contact's really bothering me, and my nose is really running, and I know it is distracting me to the point where I'm positive I'm missing stuff. Anyway, okay, so so that's effectively pretty much the way the game plays. Like I said, if you're interested in a like a pretty detailed playthrough, just leave a comment down below. And damn, like I said, this content is really going nuts on me. And you can tell that even my voice throughout the show today, my voice has been like I got a cold, because it's just really stuffing up my sinuses. And the thing was, this contact was not bothering me upstairs. It's just something about being down here with it being dry and dusty and that. All right, anyway, moving right along. You're sitting there going, well, yeah, that's your problem, Jeff. Not our problem. All right, so how about talking about some of my final thoughts about Darkest Night 2nd Edition. Oh, man, I'm telling you, this is killing me here. Now, let me take a second. It's almost as if, I got tears run down. Ay. Okay. All right, so the new edition. First of all, I'm going to address the elephant in the room that I'm sure many, many people are kind of sitting thinking, and they visit the Victory Point Games website and they see it's $135, and there's only one miniature, right? The Necromancer. So I know at that price point, a lot of people are usually expecting, okay, there should be minis. Prime example, Folklore of the Affliction core game. Well, there's the expansion too. It's got more miniatures. But when Folklore of the Affliction originally came out, you're talking it was $100, $95, I think, and it included 30 odd miniatures. So I'm sure there are plenty of people sitting around out there taking a look, and they're thinking, man, $135. That's pretty pricey. Now, I'm not saying anything as far as the price. I'm not going to use it as a negative. Well, obviously, it's not necessarily a positive. But I'm not going to use that as a negative, like, knock against the game. Because this is how I sort of look at this 2nd edition. Because, as I pointed out, you've seen it. It's a big box. This is a big box. The box is heavy. It's packed with cards and counters and everything else. So this is sort of how I kind of look at Darkest Night with this edition, is that Victory Point Games could have gone the direction of saying, okay, so here's the core game, and let's say the core game is $60, $70, right? It's for 4 players, so they would say, all right, so we're going to give you 10 hero archetypes, and we're going to give you, some of the events, the map deck, of course, but they probably would not have included the quests or the mysteries or at least 19 other characters and other little twists and tweaks to the game with all the various components that are included in this game. So Victory Point Games could have gone the direction of just doing a core game and then done, okay, so we're going to do an expansion. We're going to give you, let's say, 10 more characters, and we're going to introduce mysteries to the game, and that's going to be $35. Let's say it's $35, right? Then they could have gone and said, okay, so we're going to do another expansion. Now we're adding quests to the game, and we're going to give you another, let's say, 9 characters, and that's also, let's say, $40. They could have easily gone in that direction, and they could have probably even gone higher on the base core game and so on and so forth. They didn't. They put everything in the box. Everything you can, and I'm not saying VPG is not going to do any expansions to this. I'm just saying they loaded this up with tons of options, tons of goodies, and yes, it has $135 MSRP. Take it for what it's worth, but I am saying that I think that really what you're getting is the core game and 2 expansions all in one box. Unfortunately, it doesn't give you the opportunity to kind of try it out, check out the core game first, see if you like it. But there are tons and tons of reviews out there for the first edition. Things have not changed dramatically. I also did a preview for this second edition a few months back. Actually, may have been about a year ago, might be more than a few months, where I took a look at the various different things. And a lot of the things that are in this game were kind of Kickstarter stretch goals. Speaking of Kickstarter, something I pointed out when I did the unboxing for Darkest Night is Victory Point Games works a little bit differently than some companies as far as their Kickstarters. And that, I know a lot of people get upset when they back a Kickstarter. Let's say they back a Kickstarter for $60 for a game, and then it comes out and the retail MSRP on it is like $50, and they got the same exact game, which was $50 now in stores, but they Kickstarted it for $60. We see it happen, where that there aren't really stretch goals. It's just basically, oh, okay, here's this game. Victory Point Games doesn't do that. Victory Point Games usually packs a bunch of stuff. They've got a bunch of Kickstarter exclusives, stretch goals, things like that all go into a Kickstarter. And from my experience, usually the core game from Kickstarter is less than the retail edition when it comes out. Sorry about that. I'm telling you, this content's killing me, folks. I'm going to wrap this up in just a moment. So anyway, when you see something that looks pretty cool, or you see that Victory Point Games is doing a second edition of something that's gotten good reviews in the past, take advantage of the Kickstarter, because you're going to get the best deal going and getting the Kickstarter. All right, that out of the way, talking about the pricing, talking about Kickstarter. I really dig Darkest Night. I think we have been lucky the past year or so, because we've gotten some really cool, really epic fantasy games that really tell you a story when you play. Folklore of the Affliction from Greenbrier Games is an example. Even Sword and Sorcery from Ares Games, which I thought was okay. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. And then, of course, we've got the second edition of Darkest Night. Some folks are not going to dig the randomness of it, a lot of the chaos of it. A lot of things will come down to dice rolls. There is strategy. There are tactics that you can utilize. You're looking at what's going on the board, and you can get an idea of how you want to attack that. And of course, you have the ability to, meditate and regain, grace. You can regain secrecy by moving. So it's not as if you're just rolling dice, right? This isn't like yesterday's game, Rail Raiders Infinite, where all it is just a dice chucking fest, just ad nauseum. This has a lot of strategy and kind of game planning. That's why in some ways I think this is an easier game to play solitaire than with other players, especially if your gang of gamers, your gaming gang don't always get on the same page in a co-op game. But I really like Darkest Night. It's one of those games where when you finish playing, regardless if you win or lose, you've got a story to tell. And I really love that about games, especially fantasy games. You've got tons of options. There are loads of characters that you can be utilizing. There's just I almost used a non-family friendly word. Let's just say there is a ton of replayability in Darkest Night. If you're familiar with games like Dawn of the Zeds or Nemo's War and you really like those games and you dig fantasy games, Darkest Night 2nd Edition is a must-have. You gotta add it to your collection. If you gotta look online to find it, a little bit lower than the MSRP or something, I don't know. You gotta do something. Make sure to add it to your collection. If you don't like a lot of chaos, a lot of randomness in your games, it might be a little tougher for me to say, yeah, you really gotta get this game. You gotta get Darkest Night. But then again, it's few and far between people who don't like a little bit of randomness, a little bit of chaos in their gamings, especially when you're talking about a fantasy game that just covers so many different bases. When it's all said and done, I give Darkest Night a 9.1 out of 10. Pretty close to getting a 10. Pretty close. Just, sometimes the luck of the dice does kind of bug me about the design, but not enough where I don't want to play it right away again. But yeah, there's some times where it's sort of like, well, even my best laid plans went up in smoke because I rolled a bunch of crappy die rolls. It happens. Anyway, all right, so that is Darkest Night 2nd Edition from Victory Point Games. As I mentioned before, if you're interested in me actually taking some time out and making sure I've got fresh context in, I don't know what's going on. I mean, and it started right away. Right when I started the show, this really started to bug me, and now it's just, I can imagine my eye is like beet red. And I mean, I'm actually kind of like squinting my eye closed. Anyway, so I was going to say, if you're interested in me doing a playthrough, maybe about 45 minutes or something like that, be sure to comment down in the comment section. And of course, be sure to subscribe. I know time's running out for me to get those 1,000 subscribers. I know I'm not going to hit it. I'm not concerned. But if you do like the Gaming Gang and the Daily Dope, be sure to subscribe. When you aren't watching the Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. I will be back tomorrow. And until then, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.